Welcome to TMC Podcasts. This series is entitled In Conversation with TMC Artists, presented by Vika. So we're in conversation with Apostolos Sideris today, a bassist, a composer and a vocalizer. Hi, Apostolos.
Hello, nice to be here.
Really nice having you. One of the reasons we've met is an album release of yours, Hane. But that's not the only reason. And because you know how they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, I think so does music. So most of that talk we're actually going to leave to the audience to just listen to Hane and let it speak to them. But what I'd like us to do is to get to know you a little bit better today as a person, to get to know Apostolos. So welcome again. Most of the album is improvisation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly. Most of it has, let's say, improvisation as a basis. Mm-hmm. How songs were created, mostly from improvising. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's exactly what I wanted us to talk about. Improvisation generally in life, in music. To my mind, improvisation has a lot to do with playing around with what you've got in front of you and trying to create something out of anything available. So speaking of playing, before we talk about playing music, let's talk about playing games. So do you play games?
Yes, since I was a kid, I liked playing games.
What kind? What were your favorites?
Of course, hide and seek. We all played.
Of course, that's a classic.
I remember as a child in my grandfather's town, we used to go there in the square and running around, hiding.
Yeah. Waiting for the night to fall so that nobody can see you.
Exactly.
Lovely. How about nowadays? Do you play any games nowadays?
Nowadays, not so much, I can say, games specifically. Mm-hmm. But what we like to do is play word games a lot with our friends.
Oh, I love those. Mm-hmm.
We always create new words and make like free association kind of games.
Yes, I've actually heard you a little bit, and that was impressive what you did with your friend Dimitris. When you take that one word and then start every other with the same sound.
Yes, exactly.
Really creative and really difficult, I must admit.
He's a big influence, by the way, in this.
as in this album, as far as I could see.
Of course.
You go back a long time? Or?
We've been friends now for maybe close to a decade, I can say, like 10 years, something like that. Amazing. We met through some common friends, and he's one of the musicians that I found a nice rapport with, a nice artistic connection with.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can hear that.
Through that playfulness. Again, in music we are playful in the same kind of way, exactly. I can say.
Right, so let me then start you off with a really simple game, a classic one. It's the I say, you say game. So I say a word and you say the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
I say summer.
I say swim.
I say autumn.
I say tea.
I say winter.
I say home.
I say spring. Surprise.
I say joy.
Nice. Okay, now let's go a little bit more geographical. I say Athens.
I say home.
I say Istanbul.
I also say home.
I say New York.
I say mix.
I say Barcelona.
I say modern.
Interesting. Okay, let me put you through some colours. I say blue.
Blue. Blue has the sea.
I say green.
I say tree.
I say red.
I say heart.
And let's do yellow.
Yellow, I say average.
Okay, I say school.
I say boredom.
Was that primary school, high school, or just generally the concept of school?
Yes, I can say school, being in a classroom. I was never a big fan of this. There is some sense of, it's funny because I still sometimes I have these dreams, that I have to go to school, that I still have 1 year left of school.
Dreams or nightmares?
Probably nightmares.
Right.
So it gives me a little bit a sense of oppression sometimes. School, being in a classroom, not having finished school, it's a recurring nightmare, you can say, that I have sometimes.
Yeah, that's such a shame. We could talk about this a lot. We won't today, but perhaps some other time. Being an educator myself, I totally understand what you mean. And it really pains me that most people and children nowadays would say the same word to the word school. But we'll leave that, as I said, for another time. Let's go a little bit more abstract. There is a track called Kairos or Kairos. So I say time.
Time. Passing. Something that passes.
Like water under the bridge.
Exactly.
Lovely. Life.
Life is all we know.
Journey.
Journey, it's learning.
Peace.
Peace is...
Spelled E-A-C-E.
E-A. It's happiness.
I say freedom.
I say necessary.
I say dance.
Feeling.
Now, I wanted to say dance here because most of your tracks are actually danceable too. And you do mention that. And when I read it, and I have to admit that I first read what you wrote about the tracks and then I heard them. And I was curious whether they are really danceable too. And I found myself moving to the rhythm. It's amazing how you did that only with improvisation and tracks that are not... how can I say that? They're not traditionally made to dance to. What makes them so danceable too?
Maybe it has to do with being a bass player, where you always have to keep the beat, and I've always been very interested in that, in creating something that has a pulse, a strong pulse.
Yes.
And I like to write music. A lot of the times I name my pieces kind of dance, this dance or that dance, because I like sometimes to create a dance that doesn't necessarily, a rhythm that doesn't necessarily exist as a traditional dance. Me creating my own variation of something, of a dance.
Yes.
An imaginary dance, you can say.
Yes. Absolutely. But did you know that they are actually danceable? Have you ever danced to your own tracks?
Maybe. The strange thing is that I'm not so much of a dancer myself, which I think happens a lot of times with musicians. Maybe you've noticed that we make people dance, but sometimes you see musicians that don't know how to dance themselves.
So I thought that maybe it has to do with the Eastern influences and the North African influences that gives it that kind of danceable quality. Perhaps I'm wrong, I'm not an expert, but there is a lot of dancing in the Eastern culture and African culture. So it kind of goes hand in hand, music and dancing. So maybe, where did you get those influences from?
I can say that a lot of these influences I got from being in New York, I think. Being in contact with all these different people from different parts of the world.
Okay.
Meeting people, let's say, from Africa, from North Africa, from the Middle East, and learning different rhythms, different types, different ways, rather, to play rhythm, to approach it.
Yeah, makes sense. I thought maybe because you are from Africa, we could say, well, not from Africa.
Also, yes, what made me really interested is because both my parents were born in Egypt. So for me, it's kind of, I had this need to travel there. Not necessarily physically as well, but to see the kind of sounds that were around them while growing up. This kind of North African, Egyptian music.
Absolutely.
And knowing how that music plays such a big part in these cultures.
Right.
Like in the Balkans, the same thing. It's kind of a social thing.
It is.
Dancing, getting together to dance, it's a big part of social life, I think. What brings people together, actually, the dance.
Yes, absolutely. It always is. Those two things just go, as I said, hand in hand. You can't separate them most of the time. Okay, good. You're doing great. You're playing really well. So let's change into a different kind of game. I'm going to give you very straightforward, childish a little bit questions that we used to do at school to each other to get to know each other. So what's your favorite time of day?
I like the evening, early evening, I can say, maybe around 7, 8 o'clock when the sun is setting. In the summertime, that is, yes. There is a sense of freshness at that time.
Yeah.
Also the early morning, just that usually I miss the time when the sun is coming up. So it's easier to enjoy the evening, for sure.
Yeah, that's the curse and the blessing of a musician.
Yes.
Right, what's your favorite thing to drink?
I like soda. I really enjoy orange soda, unfortunately.
Why? Because of the sugar content?
Yes, it's not the healthiest thing to drink, but...
Right. But it is, doesn't it remind you of your childhood? Those kinds of tastes always reminded me of what we used to drink at parties and, you know...
It's true. It has a childish element to it.
So you keep in touch with the child in you, which you should.
True.
Yeah,
True.
It's evident. Your favorite dish? Or maybe your favorite comfort food or something like that.
It's funny because my friends make fun of me about that. I have a good friend who says that wherever we go out to eat, he has to order the kids' menu for me. He puts it in that way. Because I'm not very adventurous, I should say, with my food taste.
Okay. That's one of the senses. We'll talk about senses later.
Meatballs or spaghetti or things like this.
Okay. Those are your faves.
A lot of my friends, they like this fish and seafood and...
But you're not so big on
I'm
seafood.
not so big on those things. I'm pretty simple with food.
Okay.
As long as there is dough, carbs, basically.
Yeah. Well, we do need them for the energy.
True.
Right. Any films that you would like to mention as either that shaped you or just something that you like to rewatch?
It's funny in a way because while I was in America, when we were in Boston with my friends, there used to be, back then there were still those video stores, you know, which now don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, they've become obsolete, yeah.
Yes, and I remember they're finding so many amazing movies. They had a huge collection of VCRs back then. And I remember watching these kind of surreal films. This director, Luis Buñuel.
Of course, yes.
And I love so much his humor and his the way that he he exposes the subconscious in a way, but in a childish, in a humorous way. But the ironic thing is that in his films, he never had, at least I don't remember seeing him having soundtracks. Okay. There was not music, only when somebody would play a guitar in a scene or something. And that gave his films such a different character, you know?
Yeah, it is unique.
It's unique, very unique. So I would like to maybe rewatch some of those movies.
Right, so there's a track on Hane, Alev's Dance, and in it you mentioned that a short film is supposed to be made, and I'm really interested. Is it happening?
Yes.
Why
it's
film?
A funny thing, because this little piece of music, I wrote it for a little animation short film that we wanted to produce with some friends. In the end, it still hasn't happened. I think it will happen at some point.
Okay.
And it's with a very good friend, director in Istanbul. Tanji Khaled is his name. And we've been working together on we made a short film, some different things. And yes, we had this vision to make this little animation film together.
Yeah.
And there you go. Once again, it's one of those dances, you know, Alev's dance. Alev is my wife's name.
Right.
And I hope it will happen. I hope soon in the fall we'll be able to make it.
Yeah, we all hope so. So we're looking forward to seeing that soon. Favorite person in history who's no longer living?
A lot. I'm trying to think. So many, of course, so many musicians.
First one that comes to mind? It can be a musician, of course.
Yeah, I remember. I wish, let's say, I could have met somebody like Miles Davis, the jazz musician, trumpet player. It would be really great to have the opportunity to listen to him live and...
just listen to him, or would you like to have collaborated with him as well?
Of course, obviously, yes. That would have been a dream.
Okay. Finish this sentence. I'm happiest when?
When with my good friends, around my good friends.
I like to read.
Not so much, unfortunately. I'm not. It's funny because I was never a big reader. Not so much, unfortunately.
Okay. How about a writer? Have you ever considered writing?
I've written, but not only. I've written some lyrics or some simple poetry, some things like this. I've enjoyed at times writing.
I was just about to say that because some of your tracks have got lyrics to them, and I found them simple but profound. Did you write them?
For this album, yes, I wrote the lyrics. It's not something that I do often, to be honest, and I've started doing it recently, writing lyrics. Before, I thought it would have been impossible to write lyrics because I had never done it. But during the last years, I found that it's a nice thing to do also, to write lyrics or write poetry.
I think you should keep it up, definitely. There is a song, a track called Frozen Like the Winter.
Ah, yes.
Was that you?
That was me.
Yeah.
Παγωμένος σαν χειμώνας, ήταν το βλέμμα του φτερό και δεν είχε η γνώση του, γιατί πιστεύει στον ισχυρό.
Yes, I don't know how these lyrics came to my mind, because I first had the melody and again from improvising,
Yes.
I came to this riff, let's say, this melody. And then when Dimitris again,
Yes.
Dimitris Klonis, the drummer, played this drum beat and sent it to me, I felt there was a sense of violence in it.
I could feel it as well, but it was violence, but it was beautiful as well, because it
in
was,
an artistic way, I mean, in
course.
a beautiful way, but I felt, and I think during those times, something I heard about some war and things like this, you know, in the news, all these terrible things.
Yeah.
So somehow, yes, instinctively somehow I wrote these lyrics on this melody.
Yeah, what you say here in the description, it says that it talks in Greek about an occupying soldier with burning eyes who is unable to look the occupied in the eye, afraid of feeling compassion. Really strong. Afraid that he would feel
Exactly.
sorry for...
Avoiding the other person's, avoiding to make eye contact with the...
Yeah, but the reason why is what's really strong and worth pondering over. All right, let's keep it light though. What is the thing that soothes your ear the most?
Of course, music also, but also the sound of nature, to be somewhere outdoors in a calm place.
Any particular nature sounds?
Water, I really like.
Yeah. Water
To
is
be near a river, maybe a creek, and you hear the water running.
Yes.
It's so relaxing, I think.
Therapeutic as well. How do you feel about pain? What does pain mean to you?
Pain. There are different versions, maybe, of it. Of course, physical pain, you hurt yourself, but also emotional pain, which can be harder at times.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't know, my wife says I have a very low, how do you say it, like a very low threshold on pain.
So how do you deal with it when you are in pain?
Usually I'm a complainer, I have to admit.
All right.
I think she would agree on that.
Well, if it leads to finding a solution, then it's justified.
Yes, I hope.
When you are not playing music, what do you enjoy doing?
I really enjoy walking. Walking around, whether it's summer out in the nature or even in an urban environment. I really enjoy wherever I go. If I have a couple of extra hours, I will try to walk around to explore.
Yeah.
I really love doing this.
Lovely.
Even in Athens, whenever I come, I'm walking at neighborhoods I've never been.
That's lovely. Can you read the sticker?
The city is your forest. Very correct.
Do you agree?
I agree.
I mean, living in Istanbul and being from Athens.
It's our natural environment.
Exactly. But if you can look at the city as a forest, you kind of combine nature and the urban environment, and it can be really beautiful.
Which we had this conversation, it's funny, the other day with Alev again and some friends, that I read somebody explaining that, you know, all the technology we have, the cities we're built, in the end, it's nature. It's not something necessarily, how can I say, separate from nature, because we make it. We are part of nature.
Yeah.
So it is our forest in a way. It is our natural environment.
It is. Right. For the final game, I'm going to well, it's not really a game. It's going to be questions again. But I've got these cards here. I'm going to let you choose and see
Sounds like a fun game.
what's written on them. Now, the audience cannot see, but the cards have nice pictures on one side and a question written on the other. So if you just at random, choose, pick a card.
And I read it, eh?
You can read it, yes.
Oh.
What does it say?
When did you last succumb to helpless laughter?
Oh, I like that one.
Last night.
What happened?
I was out again with Dimitris.
Mm-hmm. Say no more.
Say no more. No need to say more. Truly.
Right. Yeah.
Fooling around with our silly jokes. We had our moments, I can say.
Fair enough. Next question. Next card.
What do you feel is important in life? Love, I say.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's romantic love or friendly love or love for an art form, for a game. Mm-hmm. In all its forms, I think to love and be loved, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see.
At least two more.
I'll pick this one. If you compare your life now to your life 10 years ago, what has changed for the better? Mm-hmm. One thing is that I'm closer to our part of the world than I was 10 years ago when I was in the States, in New York, which is great, of course, and it's a world of its own. But at times, America can be a little bit isolated in a funny way, although we say it's the center of the world. But at the same time, being in Istanbul, that I've been since then, brought me back to the old world, we say.
Yes.
Opened a new door to new places, also being close to my family, of course, that live here in Athens. So this is the main thing, I think, that has changed in my life in those 10 years.
Lovely.
Let me see.
I love it how you actually choose.
Yes, yes.
I feel like we're playing a game at the age of 10.
Yes. Do you ever take a nap during the day? I do sometimes, although it's not a good idea, I figured, especially after sometimes like when it's hot in a summer day, after a big meal, if you're free that afternoon, you want to take a little nap.
Yes. It depends on the length of the nap, I find. You know, when you take a 15-minute nap, you can really feel energized afterwards. But if it's
longer,
then
you can sag a little bit, and it can even be it can put you in a bad mood, I figure, sometimes.
Yes, I think always.
Always,
Yeah, for me, yes.
It's true. You have to find the right timing.
Yes.
Like in music, right? You have to know when to end it.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it can drag on and it can put you in sometimes even a depressive mood a little bit.
Yes, yes. I find that to be true. Nice, Apostolos. Another question that I'd really like to ask is about the title, Hane. Can you tell me, first of all, what Hane means and then what it means to you?
Hane means, I believe the root of the word is from a Farsi language, but it's used also in Turkish a lot. Han, it's the house, home of something.
Right.
In Greek also we say Hani, I knew this word, like this old medieval, like Ottoman, like old hotels kind of, like
where they used to stop and have a drink and eat and sleep and then continue on the journey.
Like an inn, I guess, in English.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So for me, Hane, yes, it's the sense of home, because during this time I was at home and in my safe place, and I had to start playing with what I have at home to make music. So for me, it means that. It means home, your home base.
Yeah. Why the egg on the cover?
This is the funny thing, because one morning I remember waking up, I had this kind of like a dream of this egg sitting on the egg holder, you know? And because it's like being at home, maybe eating your breakfast at home or something like this. But also then I thought about it, it can have the symbolism of the egg, of a birth of something. The creation of something, the birth maybe of something.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I mean, visually it's really pleasing, because the egg has also such a perfect shape. Even though it's not a ball, but it's still a perfect shape. Yeah, lovely. Okay. I'd like to address a couple of things more from Hane. One of them is from track Passage. It's the 10th track, and in it you say that you wanted to revisit the feeling you had when you started playing the electric bass in your youth in Athens. And when I was listening to the track, I actually did have the feeling that this was a kid in his garage just playing around. So tell me about that period. How did that feel? Because before that, you had a different choice of instrument, right?
It's true, yes. I started with a flute, classical flute, and then because of my brother, my older brother, who started playing guitar, so naturally I got a bass by luck. A father of his friend was a musician, playing in nightclubs here in Athens. And he had this old bass that I took from him. And like that, I started playing bass without having much knowledge, yet of jazz, of all those things. Just listening to records and playing along to albums, music that I loved. So during those past 2 years when we were at home, with COVID and all that, sometimes I would just plug in my bass, my electric bass, and just make a simple track and just fool around, And one night I recorded this, and I said it would be a nice passage in the album to have this little childish, almost jamming,
It was, and electric bass for you was like a rite of passage, like the tunnel through which a child passes, on his way to adulthood.
Yes.
This brings me to another question. It might be silly, you don't have to answer, but I was always wondering, how do musicians choose their instrument? Did you choose it, or did it choose you in a way?
It's hard to say, because first it chose me, I think, because my brother said, you should play the bass, I play the guitar. But then I fell in love with it quickly, and I always had interest in... I always liked the bass. Maybe it fits my character also, now that I think about it.
Why? Because it's the foundation.
It's the foundation. You can hide a little bit. I was a little shy. You don't have to be the front man.
I wouldn't know about that, but okay.
No, but it's true. I was quite shy as a child, so it fit me,
Yeah, but it does. I mean, without the bass, take out the bass from most music, and it's falling apart.
You lose a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of that foundation.
Yeah. Okay. In another track of yours, which says, entitled "All the Senses Become One." Now, this again might be redundant as a question, because music, senses, part and parcel. But how do you keep in touch with all your senses in this highly digitized world? Is it just through music, or do you have any other, outlets?
Outlet for this, Yes, it's true, because we live in such a visual, maybe, world, I can say.
Yeah, mostly, yes.
and images keep changing all the time. It's hard to focus on something. But music can give us this, how can I say, when you focus listening to music and focus on something, it gives you a nice feeling when you can go deep to one of your senses.
Right. I mean, for you as a musician, you definitely employ most of your senses. Well, not the sense of taste, obviously, but all the others. For us, the audience, I think it's all senses. Even the sense of taste can sometimes be triggered because a note that you might pluck on your instrument might remind us of something, and it's just so. It's like going back to what we are made of, those five senses, which we have unfortunately kind of lost. You know, all we do all day long, all of us, is touch that smooth screen, and as you said, it's highly visual, but there is no.
Yes, I don't know. Even the visual thing, it is visual, but images keep changing so quickly.
Yeah.
That we don't even go deep into that visual.
Yeah. Okay. In Work of Body, the 13th track, you say, this one too exposes my love for building music from the ground up, using improvisations as a tool for composition. This part, my love for building music from the ground up, is this the way you always function, or have you ever tried building it from top down, or what does that mean for you? Can you?
Yes, building something from the bottom up for me can mean a couple of different things. First of all, that maybe you don't have a specific composed melody that you wrote, you start from improvisation and then slowly you build it into something as you improvise. Right. This is one interpretation, at least for me. The other one is sonically from the bottom up. So you start from the bass, you start from playing some bass notes, some bass low notes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A groove, we can say. You start from just jamming on a rhythm, and then that evolves. You go up to the melody. You start creating something that is more melodic, let's say.
Yes.
But to answer your question, no. Sometimes I might start from a melody. And then try to orchestrate it, to see what the bass should do or what the rhythm should do under this. So I can say that both ways can be exciting.
Yeah. Lovely. Right, so we've mentioned Dimitris Klonis, and you have mentioned Khaled. Is it Khaled?
Halet Tanji,
yes, the
filmmaker.
Exactly. But can you tell me more about all the other great names and people you've collaborated with?
Yes, I had the pleasure to have several musicians being guests here and there throughout the album, and I was very happy with all those collaborations. And I like the fact that there are musicians from different musical areas. So we have, for example, my good friend Fotini Kokala, who plays the kanun, Atab Haddad, a very good friend from London, who plays the oud, Andrea Romani, of course, Yannis Poulios, that are, how can I say, regular members of my band, of my live band. Also, a very good friend and great percussionist from Istanbul, Turkey. Actually from Antalya, but he lives in Istanbul. Shakiros Anouigan playing the percussion. But then at the same time I had some musicians coming more from the jazz area, let's say, like my good friend, great saxophone player from Istanbul, Tamer Temel. Of course, pianist Leo Genovese, who has been now on playing with my group regularly. And who else? I've had two great guitar players, Kostas Baltazanis and Sarp Maden from Istanbul. I don't know if I forgot anybody. I think that's about it.
They will forgive you. They will forgive you,
Yes.
I'm sure. Lovely, wonderful.
Also, I should mention that the album was mixed by Yannis Baksevanis here in Athens and mastered by Fotis Papatheodorou.
Lovely. And even though I wouldn't like to finish this lovely conversation with you, and I've got so many more questions I'd like to ask, but let's keep it short and sweet. So for the end, I would like us to talk a little bit about the last track, the epilogue. There are two things in this track. One is the sounds of the city, and the other is that one sentence that a passerby utters, saying, "Don't you know what the secret is?" Tell us something more about this, because I found it fascinating, and it's a beautiful way to finish the album and perhaps our conversation for today.
Yes, it's this, just like work of body. It started as an improvisation. I wrote a lot of kind of like a drone with the many basses that I recorded, and then I improvised something one evening at home. Mm-hmm. And when I listened back to it, I thought it had quite a cinematic feeling to it. Kind of like a nostalgic maybe feeling, I should say. Mm-hmm. And when I listened to it, I thought it would be a very nice way to end this little journey, this little album. And it symbolized for me going back to the outside world after being, confined the way we were with everything. That's how I thought of recording city sounds. Mm-hmm. And having my music become again one with the city, with the outside world. So I had recorded in my neighborhood in Istanbul some sounds from the city, car honks, people walking, people talking in the city. However, when I played it to my good friend and sound engineer that I work with, Yannis Baksevanis, when I played him this recording, he rightfully said that it's not, the quality of the recording, first of all, was not good. And he said, wait a minute, I made a field recording in my neighborhood in Athens that I recorded. Let's listen to it. Maybe we can use something from there. And we played it. It was wonderful. The sound, the way it was recorded. It was exactly what I wanted. And suddenly I hear this person saying in Greek, don't you know, or do you know what is the secret? I found this to be very poetic, It
was indeed.
It's a very poetic thing. And I asked him, what was that? He said, as I was walking, recording, somebody on the phone said this. Yeah. So what it could have been, I don't know. Maybe he was explaining a recipe to a friend. This is what I thought. You know what the secret is? You have to put the lemon before or something like this, But I thought it was such a poetic way to end this little journey,
Yes, and this is a beautiful...
I don't know what it means, but sometimes it's nice to have a little phrase like this, and people can interpret it like music in their own way.
Exactly. You put it so beautifully that I have nothing to add. The way we started was that a picture speaks 1,000 words, and that for me music does as well. So we're going to leave it at that. Leave the audience to listen to Hane. And let it speak to them, and answer, find their own answers to the question in the epilogue. Yes,
and find their own, like we said before, they can find their own, they can dance to it in their own way. They can find their own dance, their own interpretation, their own feeling. That's the beauty, I think, of music in the end. Indeed. Although I like to sometimes write something about something I wrote. At the same time, I want people to interpret things with their own experiences, their own life experience, through their own prism.
Yeah, it happens inevitably anyway. Very nice. Thank you so much, Apostolos.
Thank you so much for having me here. And
I'll be happy to meet up with you in Istanbul.
yes.
And I would love to lead more conversations, to have you more often in conversations with us on different topics. And
yes, by the Bosphorus maybe next time.
I'd
We
love
can
that,
sit somewhere
yes.
by the Bosphorus.
I would love that, to the sound of the seagulls.
Yes,
Of
yes.
course. All right, thank you so much again, and have a really nice and safe trip back.
Thank you.
And hope to see you and speak to you again very soon.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Και ξέρεις ποιο είναι το μυστικό? Και ξέρεις ποιο είναι το μυστικό?